just going to cost millions and millions of dollars to fix it. And I think you could reduce the amount of millions spent if there was some personal responsibility. I think if people were held personally responsible for what they're doing, right? So if you're a guard in a jail and you violate someone's rights, you can be sued around your qualified immunity. If you decide to go outside of your authority and outside of your qualified immunity protection to make statements that damage markets, maybe you should be held personally responsible for that. Maybe you should answer to the court for that. If you say things like, we want to lose more cases because if you're not bringing enough cases, if you're not losing cases, you're not bringing enough. Gary Gensler's on the record saying that. Gary Gensler's on the record in Congress under oath saying that there's a gap in the legislation where they can't regulate exchanges because they're crypto exchanges, not securities exchanges. And then, not so long later, he goes, was I lying then or was I lying now? I don't know, but my story sure has changed. Now we actually have everything we need. Just come in and register, even though they've been sued by Coinbase via writ of mandamus. And then the SEC finally responded after delaying and said, oh yeah, actually we're not going to make any rules. The whole rest of the world's making rules. Japan's making rules. Singapore's making rules. There's new exchange licenses. XRP just got licensed as a money transmitter, VASP, value service, whatever the heck, I don't remember, virtual asset service provider in Ireland. Coinbase just got virtual asset service provider in France, I think. The whole rest of the world's figured it out, And then there more bad stuff, right? Gary Gensler loses the XRP case. Now, look, is it him specifically? No. But I think he's on the commission of guys that has to vote for what actually gets sued, right? So I think there's like 5 people on the commission, and you need like 3 of 5. And if you get 3 of 5, then they can like bring an action against somebody. I think that's how it works. Not an expert, not a lawyer. So like 3 of 5 guys, and by the way, you see dissenting opinions all the time, right? So Hester Pierce is a commissioner. She's always dissenting. She's dissented in the Stoner Cats case. She's dissented in a bunch of cases. She's going to tell you what we're doing is wrong. Like this stuff that the SEC is doing is wrong. And she's on the board. She's in the commission, right? She's one of the 5 people that gets to vote on these things. And there's another guy, I think his name's Udaya, that like is commonly dissenting with her these days. Now, like, why am I telling you guys about this stuff? Because these are your rights. I don't live in the United States. I haven't lived in the United States for decades. These are your rights. These are your problems. These people are screwing you. You need to do something about it. So the things that I'm telling you that are obviously true, like for instance, you can't custody cryptocurrency. Like I'll give you an example. The IRS is trying to make some law where like anybody that could have known about a transaction now has compelled speech and has to like gather data on other people, which will be hacked and stolen by Chinese hackers and Russian hackers, but they're just idiots, right? It's just like the SEC themselves. They in their own annual letter declare that they can't find experts to work on crypto because they all own crypto and don't want to sell it. And so then they're not allowed to hire people that own crypto. Okay. Well, maybe you guys have a bad setup, or stop sucking, right? Just stop sucking, guys. If you don't have the expertise to regulate a thing, it's better to do no harm first, right? Like the Hippocrates law that doctors follow, do no harm first. Yeah, like Gary Gensler was making meetings with Sam Bankman-Fried, his buddy, right? His Democrat, like Gary Gensler was the treasurer for Hillary Clinton's Democratic campaign for president. He's as political as you can get, I think. Here he is meeting with, Sam Bankman-Fried, who sent tons of money to Democratic, politicians. You got, was it Maxine Waters blowing Sam Bankman-Fried a kiss? Yeah, guys, good one. But you're not going to give the creditors back that money they donated, are you? FTX went bankrupt. Sam Bankman-Fried stole the money. But you politicians aren't going to give back that money that he gave to you that he stole, are you? No, you're not. Why? You might not be good people. You just might not be good people. Now, not to say that not giving, like, there's some law that covers them so they don't have to give it back or whatever, but that's not what makes you bad. You violating people's rights is what makes you bad, right? I remember COVID. I remember you guys violating everyone's right to move, violating their freedom of movement. I remember you house arresting people. I remember you guys doing that. It was disgusting. I remember you guys now, trying to claim that crypto is used to support Hamas and saying like 60 million. And then you go check the numbers and it's like 800K. What's going on here, guys? Why do you keep lying? Stop lying. Literally just stop lying. So the arguments that I have that are obviously true, that cryptocurrencies are communications networks that might have Rule 210 protections for safe harbor, that might have protections for freedom of speech, freedom of contract, freedom of association, protection against prior restraint. These arguments aren't getting used. They're just not, which is so stupid to me. These are communications networks among peers. It couldn't be any more obvious. This is speech. We are transmitting text. We are transmitting messages. We are transmitting numbers. We are transmitting pictures. We are transmitting art. We are transmitting audio. This is a communications network amongst peers. This is speech. This is speech as speech gets. Right? So the idea that the people just aren't using these arguments is very stupid, because if you lose a case, you can't bring up new evidence in the appeal. So you have to cover everything in your first case. So if you're leaving arguments on the table and not making them a first case, you're not going to be able to bring them up on appeal. Huge mistake, huge error. So if you guys out there that are lawyers that are submitting amicus briefs or filing motions to intervene, you need to be covering your First Amendment, 10th Amendment, due process, equal protection, latches, waiver. Google these words if you don't know what they mean. Like latches and waiver basically cover, you could have brought this action earlier and the defendant would have had a better ability to defend themselves, but you chose not to. And therefore you might have waived your right to enforce. And then in other cases, I mean, we've seen crypto cases where it was even over the statute of limitations, and then they just ate a judgment anyway, or like the statute of limitations was up. Like what? Why didn't you get good counsel, and why didn't you argue that the statute was up? Like what? Crypto. It's an industry run by clowns and idiots that won't listen. If you guys would listen to me, you wouldn't have lost money in BlockFi. You wouldn't have lost money in Celsius. You wouldn't have lost money in Gemini Earn. What a fake Bitcoin maximalist, right? Look at the Winklevi twins. Yeah, you guys are real Bitcoin maximalists when you're doing the opposite and taking people's private keys from them and giving it to a counterparty, and then all of you getting wrecked together. How stupid are you guys? You guys are idiots. Or how about this one, right? Censorship resistant network. People are putting JPEGs on the Bitcoin network, and the Bitcoin people hate this. They killed it with counterparty and made the op return code size too small for counterparty to operate way back when. Even Tether used to operate only on the Bitcoin network. So USDT used to operate on Keller Coins, which was on the Bitcoin network. And then they stopped doing it because the fees sucked and the features sucked. And so they moved over to primarily EVM networks now, which Ethereum was the first one. The E in EVM stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine. So like Pulsechain is an EVM network. So you have this. So Jack, who was at the helm of Twitter when they were helping the United States government violate your rights to freedom of speech by the government themselves giving them lists of people to silence and de-amplify and ban because they talked about COVID or Joe Biden's laptop or his son Hunter Biden's laptop full of pictures of him smoking crack and getting down with hookers. And by the way, the idea that Joe Biden's kid gets a bunch of jobs in Ukraine with no qualifications and a bunch of money from China and Ukraine, and then writes his dad checks and pays for dad's cell phone bill. Man, you're busted, bro. Yo, in the carceral state of America, where nearly anything's a crime and nearly anything gets you 20 years, Joe Biden, I got bad news for you, buddy. It ain't looking good for you, man. Why is your kid writing you checks? And why does he have jobs in countries that we're sending billions of dollars to? What's that? Like, what? Stop. Dude, no, don't. Like, oh, America, man. I left America, 2003? 20 years ago. I left America 20 years ago, and yet here I am spending my days doing legal research to try and make America a better place. Sucks for me, bro. Sucks for me.